Welcome back to Sonic Central, everyone. My name's Velcomia. Today I'm going to teach you all a few little tricks, some little shortcuts, skips in some of the run stages in Sonic Rumble. Now, some of these are going to require movement skills. Ideally, you will want dive kick. Now, you can get dive kick, I think, for like 100 skill stars from the skill shop. Now, the reason why this skill is so good is, first of all, it needs to be maxed out, because when it's maxed out, you're allowed to like jump cancel it. Now, to jump cancel, activate it midair and jump as you're diving down, okay? Now that's gonna cancel it and fling you straight forward. Now because of this, I'd actually argue dive kick is one of the best skills in the game purely because of this cancel. It's actually better as a movement ability than it is an offensive skill. Also with run, I would recommend maybe a second movement skill, but this can be anything. You could use baseball slide, you could use... right now I'm trying to test the spin dash out. It's got a few problems, but it seems to be alright. They just need to do something about the auto lock with it. You could have Sonic's Finders Keepers, again, baseball slide. You could have any of the character-specific movement abilities, like Silver's Levitation, for example. Anyway, let's move on to some of the run stages then. Alright, so this is going to be like an optional skip. You don't necessarily have to do this, because there is actually some risk involved with this one, but what you want to do is you want to go up here, and then dive kick as soon as you enter the top, and then you can jump across. Now, sometimes you can actually land on that spring. One of the reasons why this shortcut is kind of hit or miss sometimes is because if you don't have a second movement ability, you won't have dive kick to do this second shortcut here. Sometimes you can get a red star there, and a red star will still allow you to do the skip. So, we've got a red star now. What we can do is just quickly do that and jump over it. Now we're over the wall. We don't have to wait near this wall now and destroy it. Okay, so now I'm going to show the shortcut by using dive kick. So, just do this. Boom, we're over the wall. Now, sometimes you can actually land on the fence. Ideally, that's what you want to do because you won't have to go through any of this little section here, push these walls or anything. Okay, so that's it for Green Hill Run 1. Now we're on Green Hill Run 2. Now, the first major skip, major shortcut, we can actually do it right here, but again, we need dive kick. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump, cancel dive kick, and jump over this, okay? So that will allow us to skip that rock. We can get ahead now. Many of the other players are going to be attacking that rock, but we're at massive advantage now because we're way ahead. We get dibs on the egg pawn so we can get more rings. Now we're at the end of the stage. I'm going to use spin dash, just get ahead. Boom, we finished. Now this one goes out to all the Rouge mains out there. Rouge is really strong in this run stage purely because of this part, and I'll show you why. Now, if you've got Screw Kick completely leveled up, in fact, actually, I don't think it really needs to be completely leveled up. What we do is we activate Screw Kick here. But yeah, that's it for Green Hill Run 2 then. Okay, so we're in Green Hill Run 3 now. Now, the first shortcut is actually a pretty obvious one. When you get to this second section here, you'll see this spring sort of levitating in the air. Now, this does require timing, and it's not always easy to pull it off in a real-time sort of race. But what we want to do is we want to wait for the ramp to go up, and then we can go onto the spring, and then we'll skip that entire section back there. Now that we're in this section, you'll see another spring. I know this is easier said than done, trust me. This shortcut is kind of hard to pull off, especially when you're running against other players. But yeah, we can try and do that again, and boom, there we go. So this is a kind of an optional one. I would still recommend doing it because this bit can be a bit chaotic because there's a wall there that we've just destroyed. A lot of people will activate Charge Blast or any sort of offensive skills, but you'll see these like spikes appearing. What we want to do is we want to time a dive kick and try and jump over as quick as possible. All right, now we've skipped both of those. Hopefully we're ahead. That should, and they've also like made this bit a little bit shorter now. So as soon as you get past that section, hopefully with using dive kick, you'll be way ahead of your opponents. Now, there is this last bit here. Don't rush this part because it can go so wrong. If you go onto the ramp too early, you'll crash into the bottom there. So make sure you go onto the ramp when it's as high up as it possibly can be, and you'll go through the middle there. Alright, so we're on Seaside Hill Run 1. Now, when you begin this stage, there are two paths you can take. You can go the left path, or you can go the right path, okay? Now, I'd recommend going the right path, especially if you've got dive kick. I'll explain why, because as you can see, there's loads of walls over there. You don't know which one's going to be the right one, and you can sort of be down there for quite a while. All right, now we've gone the right side. There are these two little walls here. If you get the right one, dive kick. We're way ahead now. Hopefully we get the right wall this time. And if we do, we get first digs on this egg pawn here. And that's pretty much it for the skips in this stage. There isn't really a whole lot to say about this stage. Obviously, down there, you can use dive kick again, but there is a bit of RNG involved with those gold springs there. And when you get to that top section in the far distance there, there are some of those, like, mystery block things. So it is all RNG in this stage, but for that dive kick I demonstrated just then, at least can get you a little bit ahead, and it should be able to get you to that egg pawn first so you can get more rings. Okay, so we're on Seaside Hill Run 2 now. Now, there are a few different ways you can approach this bit. Ideally, you would want 2 movement skills, but if you've got a red star, you can also skip it. So if you only have 1 movement ability, but you are lucky enough to get a red star here, you can use the red star to jump over this. But what we're going to do, again, dive kick. We've got over that. Now we're going to do the spin dash, jumped over. Now we've just skipped that entire section. We haven't had to deal with any RNG. We're going to be well ahead. And we've also got a red star. We're just going straight to the finish line. Right, we're in Seaside Hill Run 3 now. So, there is this first section here. Now, if it did take you a while to get through this section here, your dive kick is probably off cooldown. So what you can do is you can do dive kick and jump all the way down here. But if you don't have dive kick replenished back there, use it here. Because again, you can skip a lot of distance there. And then we can use our other movement ability to get all the way down here. Okay, so we're approaching the end section of Seaside Hill Run 3. Again, we're going to use dive kick. This video is basically just demonstrating how insane dive kick actually is. But what we could do is dive kick all the way down here. We can go over this ramp. Always make sure you're analyzing where these ramps are as well. And then, there we go. We're all the way at the end. So one of the first little tips in Chemical Plant Run 1 I would definitely suggest is either use one of your movement skills to sort of bypass that, or of course use dive kick. Boom. We're across. There isn't really much other skips in this stage, not gonna lie, because as soon as we get down here, there's a wall, and then that's pretty much it. There isn't really many skips in this. When we get to the end section, which I'll demonstrate now. Alright, so now we're at the end of this stage. Go into these springs, of course, and then use your second movement ability if you do have one. Try and get a quick hit on one of those egg pawns as well to just maximize your rings. Try and get another one. And then, of course, you've got red star. We're at the end. So now we're in Chemical Plant Run 2. Now, this is actually my favorite run stage in the game. We're going to use our first movement skill over here. Then we're going to use dive kick, get across this whole section. Don't have to worry about it. Destroy all of these. Now, if you're fast enough, you can get through this middle section. Or if you've got a red star, you know, we can just do that. Get through it quicker. Because we go through this middle section, we have all these different egg pawns here. Again, maximize your rings. Try and take your time with this guy and wait until dive kick replenished. Boom. Now we can homing attack that. Now we're across. See how it just all flows together? Dive kick is crazy. Now that we're at the bottom of this bit, we can use our second movement ability, bypass all of that at the end. So in Chemical Plant Run 3, there isn't really many skips or shortcuts in this, but there is this one little trick you can do at the very end here. Now you want to target this wall here, and what you can do is dive kick and you can get up, right? Now we can do our second movement ability. Again, if you got a red star, skip this whole section, and then we can get to the end. So now that we're in Starlight Carnival Run 1, what we can do again, just repeating myself here, dive kick across this, and hopefully if we're fast enough, we can make the cycle for this invisible road. Looks like we're a little bit slow, that's fine. And then we can just go through this little trail here. I would definitely suggest just wait to use your second movement ability, and I'll explain why in a moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to homing attack these things here, and dive kick forward, jump, that momentum will carry you. Now what we can do is use our second movement skill. We can bypass that whole section. So this is Starlight Carnival Run 3. Now, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, and in a way, this video does demonstrate shortcuts and skips, of course, but it can also demonstrate, you know, when and where to use dive kick, I guess. So once we've activated all these switches here, the lasers are down, what we want to do is we want to go on this conveyor belt, jump here, and actually jump to this one here. You don't have to go onto that far right panel. We can use our other movement skill, jump, and then here, dive kick, we can go all the way to the bottom. Now, you can actually activate that even earlier. So just like the previous Starlight Carnival Run 3, Lava Mountain Run 1 doesn't really have many shortcuts or skips, but again, you can just use your movement skills here, and of course use dive kick when it replenishes. The problem with it though is because of these cannons, we have to wait 4 seconds. So yeah, while we're ahead, we still have to wait 4 seconds, which will then, you know, allow our opponents to get, you know, to catch up. But if we've got a red star in this section, what we can do is we can actually just red star through this, and then on the way down, dive kick, and then of course activate your other movement skill. Always make sure, okay, don't do that. Always make sure you go to the left cannon here, okay? Because this will shoot you out instantly. You won't have to wait at all. Whereas if you go into the middle one, you're gonna have to wait 4 seconds. There we go. We can get straight to the end. Now, while there aren't a whole lot of skips in Lava Mountain Run 2, there are definitely ways to make this quicker. Ideally, when you get to this section, use your movement skill to get all the way up here. Your dive kick cooldown will be replenished, so we can just use it there. What I would suggest, though, wait here until that spike ball falls down, okay? Now, then when we get up here, we're going to see some enemies. Just try and kill them as quick as possible. Right, now that that's destroyed, jump again. We can land on that platform. Dive kick, boom. That dive kick gave us a little bit of a jump there, and then it allowed us to get to the finish line. All right, so Lava Mountain Run 3 is good, but again, it's another one which doesn't really have any shortcuts. So I'm just going to point out the best sort of places to use your like movement skills or whatnot. So when we get past this section here, movement skill, just allow us to get a little bit ahead, not by much. So we're going to approach a minecart section here. And then, of course, we're greeted by the walls that Sonic Rumble seems to like a lot. Now, what I would suggest is use your second movement skill, okay? Now, that will just send us really far ahead. Now, I know I've got the spin dash. It's a legendary skill. But again, I've got a maxed out like movement skill. You'll be able to cancel it. Now that we're at this section here, you'll see all this lava rising and whatnot. Dive kick again. Bypass a lot of this section right at the end. Don't really have to worry about the lava. Frozen Factory Run 1. Now, there is actually a very, very good skip in this level. Now, I will point it out. Now, you want to make sure you kind of always do this one. Now, of course, in a real-time race, it doesn't always go that way, of course. But a lot of the time, it does. A lot of the time, it does. So when you reach this section here, you're going to see these ice blocks. What I would suggest, actually, is go in between the two, okay? You're going to destroy both of them. Look how many rings we've got. So now that we're on this ice block, what we can do is, of course, dive kick. You can use another movement skill. Just get across this snow, you know what I mean? Alright, so there are a few different ways you can approach this start bit of Frozen Factory Run 2. Now, you can deliberately get frozen if you're lucky, and then the ice block will send you down that pit. But what I will suggest is just can't risk it. And then use your movement ability. Try and be as fast as possible because, again, you see this warning here. You just missed it. Get these egg pawns. Make sure their shields are down. Now we're at this bit. We can, of course, use dive kick. Skip that whole bit. Okay. And, of course, again, use our second movement ability. Avoid that whole slope section. Here's a quick tip as well. Try and destroy all these, as many of these balloons as possible. You'll get a magnet, okay? Now, the reason why the magnet is important is because you can collect all these different rings here. See? We've got all of them. So once we're up this ice block, and I've said it a billion times in this video, dive kick. If you get frozen, it's fine. If you get frozen, it's fine because they recently patched it in. So if you mash circle or whatever controller you're using, B, I guess would be on an Xbox controller, you can actually break free of the ice. All right, now we're in Sky Sanctuary Run 1. As soon as we get to this bit, now you can use a movement skill to get up here, but the spin dash sucks to get up here. But this is actually one of the biggest shortcuts and skips in the game because of, you guessed it, dive kick. And what we do, dive kick there, look at that. We just skip that whole bit. And because of that, we are so far ahead now. Don't really have to worry about anything. We can use our second movement skill, of course. Get to that spring there. Now, if you have a red star, when you jump on that, red star to that spring, that's it. All right, so depending on where you start in Sky Sanctuary Run 2, what I would suggest is go either to the far left or the far right. And the reason for that is from experience, it seems most players always seem to stray towards the middle section, and it can be an absolute war zone. I've actually also switched off the spin dash for this skip in particular because it's not very good at this one, but what we're going to do is we're going to find us keepers, jump. We've just skipped that whole bit. And what we can do again is, you guessed it again, dive kick. Straight into one of those cannons. The problem with this stage, though, is even if you pull off all those skips, all those little, faster methods to get ahead there, you're going to get slowed down by this bit because it is complete luck on what the right block's going to be. But once we're down here, of course, you're going to probably be with other players if they have managed to catch up. But yeah, destroy the egg pawns. This bit is an absolute war zone sometimes. What I suggest, dive kick straight down, land on one of these. I just hope for the best in this bit. Right, so Silent Forest Run 1. What I suggest, go to the far left, the far right. Don't even bother jumping, just fall off and you'll land on the spring. Now that we're going to go up this spiral section right here, you're going to see these searchlights. What I would suggest, though, is use your movement skill here and save dive kick for this bit. Now, wouldn't really recommend going the left path. Go to the right path. It's a whole lot easier now. A few months ago, this bit was really difficult to get through, but now, not so much. But we've just skipped pretty much this entire section. We've got shield. We just go ham on these egg pawns here. If you do have a shield here, it's actually very beneficial because you cannot get attacked by them whatsoever, even if they got shield up. So Silent Forest Run 2, there is a little bit of luck involved, and it's particularly about the start section. You have no idea where you're going to go. It will just take you to any random place. But what we can do is, of course, use our second movement skill. Try and get to the end of this bit as fast as possible where these springs are. Once we're at this section here, dive kick across this. Oftentimes, you can get invincibility there. If you do get an invincibility there or a shield, it's very good because you can break these blocks really quickly. But yeah, again, like I explained earlier, go in the middle of them, you'll attack both of them, you get double the amount of rings, basically. Now, a very, very useful tip here is, if you have a red star, what you could do is activate it there, and you completely avoid taking damage from the boulder there. Dive kick, and right at the end. not much to really say about this one. This one can be very difficult, and that's because of the end section where there's this wall basically, and it only comes down when you destroy all the enemies, but most players will have caught up to you at that point. But I'll explain a little tip at the end when we get there. Right, so when we go onto these little blocks here, activate dive kick at the very top one and try and time it so you land on them just as they come back up. Once we get to this section, don't use one of your movement skills, trust me, because it is not worth it. We have to wait here anyway. All right, now that we've destroyed all the badniks, this is where the mayhem begins. But what we could do, dive kick, but try and land on one of those lily pads there. And then if you get an opportunity, use one of your movement skills, and then we can red star. That bit is tough. I'm not gonna lie, it is tough. But hopefully with dive kick and another movement skill, you can make it through a bit quicker. Now there is actually a very, very useful little skip demonstrated by one of my friends, Vash, on Discord. So what we can do originally is if you've got finders keepers or anything, do it off the ledge, jump midair, okay? That will save you a little bit of time, and hopefully it should get you ahead. Now you can use dive kick here if you want to. There's no real disadvantage to doing it. In fact, you probably should use it there. Get around a lot quicker. Okay, so if you were lucky enough to get a red star in this section, what you can do is, this is a really big shortcut, right? What we can do is we can attack one of these barrels, red star over that. Huge. You don't have to worry about attacking those. Of course, you're going to be down some rings, but I think the 1500 bonus you get for coming in first more than makes up for it. And of course, we can use dive kick to get straight to the end. Not much to really say about Desert Ruins Act 2. Use finders keepers if you've got it, or any sort of movement skill. Eventually, dive kick's going to replenish, so we're going to use it here. Just get through this section pretty quickly. When we get to this section, try and focus on the cycles, dive kick, and then if you've got, of course, your other movement skill, you can just use that to get straight to the end. I don't know, there just really isn't a whole lot to say about Pinball Carnival Run 1. This start section would be kind of annoying because of these flappers here, but if you've got a red star, you can try and zoom forward, and you know, the red star can destroy those flappers. You can use a movement skill here. But here's where this stage can get a bit annoying. You need to time this properly. You do not want to go into any of those because it will slow you down. You'll also lose a few rings. Just try and be patient there. They changed this bit in the final game, which is good. This bit used to be even worse. It used to be a whole lot harder to get up here. I wouldn't focus too much going onto these bumpers because they give you like, what, 3 rings each? Just try and make it to the bottom as quick as you possibly can. Here's where a lot of the luck is. You can't really predict where that's going to take you. Pinball Carnival Run 2, this is actually a newer stage they introduced. You get a good vantage, dive kick, then we can go over there. Right, once we're past that section back there, here's where some of the annoyance can come, all right? So what we want to do is we want to aim for these openings here. I know it's easier said than done, but trust me, they are so useful. Because if another player manages to get into them, they have definitely won this, unless this happens. But yeah, try and go into those little pipes there. If you do, you're pretty much guaranteed to get first place. Alright, so we're in Sweet Mountain Run 1. This is arguably probably the shortest run stage in the game. And there really is one pretty substantial little skip shortcut you can do, and that's involved in this section here. So when you drop down, dive kick forward, jump, and you'll already be on these grind rails. This is going to put you so far ahead. I would always recommend do this, because if you don't, oh boy, it could be a war zone, especially with that new grappling item they introduced into the game. And there we go. Sweet Mountain Run 2. This is just going to be another stage where I'm just repeating myself to just use dive kick or your other movement skill. Right, once we're through the wall, what we can do is land on these like cupcake things here, dive kick, and try and aim for that spring, okay? And then when you're midway through, double jump and then attack the enemy there. Attack this other one. Save your movement skill. Save your movement skill. When we're off this, there we go. All right, we're in City Escape Run. What I would suggest is when you get to this second section here, if you are ahead, of course. Now, if you land in the middle of both of these boost pads, you'll actually get double the speed. See, there we go. Try and activate your movement ability as soon as you get down, because for whatever reason, if you don't, you'll get sent straight into the wall. As soon as we get up here, what we can do is we can use these green springs to our advantage and dive kick midair. Get straight to this enemy right here. Okay, so now that he's taken care of, what we could do is actually use one of our movement skills on the very end here. That'll give us just a little bit of momentum to get a little far ahead. All right, with City Escape Run 2, what I'd suggest, now this bit is very good. This is a very good part for dive kick. Now, of course, there is a little bit of RNG, but it's all good. Activate dive kick there. Wow, we actually managed to get it. You don't know which is going to be the right block, but it's fine if you've got another movement skill. Just keep trying. There we go. All right, with Space Colony, there's a pretty decent shortcut you can do here. Time it to the very last second and we can make it across. Okay, so when we get to this bit, what we need to do is we need to wait for the trick animation to end, then dive kick, okay? Now, of course, I don't know how I just somehow ignored the damage there. It must have been through that, like, grappling item. So this is the final run stage in the game. Now, this one is actually, a lot of it is down to just landing on the springs, but of course, dive kick can be very useful because it can allow you to aim just a bit more specifically to it. As you can see, just try and aim for these springs. But with this, dive kick can land straight onto that rail. Try and jump again, we'll land on it. When we're at this final section, again, try and aim for these springs as much as you possibly can. If you have to dive kick, dive kick. I'm going to use it here. Just made it. Jump again. Try and avoid those bad nicks. And there we go. Okay, so that's pretty much it for all the shortcuts and skips and little advice in there. I'm not claiming this is the best possible advice for the run stages. These are just things I've picked up on over this the course of this year since I've been playing the game and the skills were introduced. But yeah, I do hope some of this advice has helped you. It kind of does suck how you have to max them out to achieve the cancel. So that is one thing to keep note of. You will have to max out a lot of these skills so you can do some of the cancelling in midair. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Love you all. You're the best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.